Welcome to the Microsoft Teams news show brought to you by UC Today. I'm your host, Rob Scott, and it's great to have you all tuning in for our last show of 2024. So today, as always, I'm joined by Teams guru Tom Arbuthnot from Empowering Cloud and our panel of Teams experts from around the globe. It's great to have you all here. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, great to see you all, and welcome, Tom. Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing well. You've done your Christmas shopping, I presume.
Yeah, nearly there. It's been a really busy December. There's been lots of events and activity, but it's finally starting to wind down though. So nearly ready.
Yeah, well, I appreciate everyone jumping on the call today for our last show of the year. It is very close to Christmas, so by the time this comes out, it could even be Christmas. So
could be mid-Jan, depending on how fast we get through.
And if it's 2025, don't worry about it. Yeah, but it's still a very, very valid and great watch. So anyways, we've got lots to talk about today, and we're all wearing our Christmas jumpers and things like that. And even we've got some background sparkle for you if Graham would like to press the button. But Tom, we said, first of all, we're going to talk about the highlights, of the year.
Yeah, I look back at the year. Like, there's been a lot this year, and I had a bit of a look back, and we've talked with the panel here to kind of pick out some highlight feature announcements, changes, all that good stuff, and then a little look towards 25 as well.
And Tom, why don't we start by just jumping into some of those big numbers for this year?
Yeah, so in April, I like to look at the quarterly earnings, because that's when we get the kind of official numbers from Microsoft. And April 24, we got two big numbers. So 20 million Teams phone users. So Microsoft only count that number when phone users are active and connected to a phone line and using the service. So that's not licensed, that is active. They've defined that publicly. And also over 1 million Teams rooms as well. Those numbers are back in April, so we've had a long time since then. We haven't had any more public numbers. We kind of know from bits and pieces of conversation, both those numbers have gone up since then. But super impressive numbers. Exciting to see the Teams rooms cross the 1 million mark as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And overall, I suppose the big number as well is the kind of monthly users, isn't it, on Microsoft Teams platform? Do we have a kind of number, an outgoing number for the year?
Yeah, still the official number is 320 million monthly active users. So there's been no significant big announcement of that number going up. I'm sure it's ticked up, but it feels like that's starting to get fairly saturated against the 400 million or so Office 365 M365 users. And as we'll talk about later in the show, Microsoft have kind of pivoted their focus away from net new Teams users, because pretty much every knowledge worker has it now, to upselling phone, rooms and premium. So and of course Copilot being the big push this year to upsell as well. So still 320 million monthly active users, which is a pretty incredible number, and interesting to contrast the 20 million phone users, and I think Kevin's going to talk about premium as well, against that massive base of users.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the biggest announcements of the year around customer engagement was the launch of Dynamics 365 Contact Center, wasn't it? So Satish, I'm going to come to you on this one.
From the Dynamics 365 standpoint, Dynamics is completely integrated with Microsoft Teams. So it's really one single solution coming in from one single OEM. So that's one thing that most of the customers want. That's one thing. And then lot of organizations are already using Dynamics for their CRM platform. One interesting thing that did change on the Dynamics 365 Contact Center is Microsoft is expanding beyond Dynamics as a CRM. So you'll have Salesforce coming in, you'll have HubSpot coming in the next year. So that would expand the services to other CRM offerings as well. So a lot of customers are interested in the overall offering coming in from Microsoft as such.
Yeah, fantastic. Another certainly making a big impact in the marketplace, it seems, and certainly in the contact center world. So moving on another update, Microsoft released Teams 2.1. I mean, I know there's a lot in that. Do you want to take us through that as a big update this year?
Yeah, I mean, this is arguably the biggest thing that happened in Teams, and it's interesting because Microsoft swapped out the client. So back to that 320 million users, like an insane amount of monthly active users. And this year we went through an upgrade process where they went from an old Electron-based client that we had back from GA years and years ago to a new client. And the headline here is we didn't get any massive issues or outbursts, which I think super congratulations to Microsoft for doing that kind of client swap out. If you look at what's happening with Outlook and their change and how hard that is, Teams comparatively made it look really impressive. So no huge user changes. We are seeing now some clever things or different things around combining chat and channels and some new experiences, and it laid a foundation for both Rooms and Teams client and now the new VDI client. So they're all running on that new architecture, which is significant for future features as well.
Yeah, that certainly was big. And Kevin, I'm going to come to you on this one. We talked a lot about Teams Premium this year. In the Q4 2024 earnings report, Microsoft announced 3 million seats on Teams Premium. What's your view on that? I mean, I think it was something like 400% year-on-year growth. How significant has that been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've always described Teams Premium as this eclectic, combination of features. Maybe it's like a turkey that Microsoft keeps stuffing for the holiday season. And, I think finally they've stuffed it full enough that it's worthwhile and appetizing to people. They keep putting in more features. We're going to talk about the Queues app and, like every new interesting feature they throw into Teams Premium. Now, to put it into context, I mean, so 400% year-over-year growth, I mean, it was starting from a small base, right? So, unlike the 320 million monthly active users of Teams, which seems to kind of have plateaued, and just doing the math, that's 76% of the 420 million commercial Office licenses, right? So, maybe the unbundling of Teams forced by the EU, maybe that's causing it to plateau a little bit because now you have to, kind of pay for it. And with all the additional licenses, I think people are getting a bit of sticker shock, because everybody, if you're paying for Copilot and Teams Premium. So 3 million is impressive, but once again, that's less than 1% of the 320 million, monthly active users. I think Microsoft, of course, all vendors, spin stats. They said nearly 75% of Teams users are using either Premium, Room, or phone. And that sounds great, but once, that only means you have necessarily one license, right? So I think into 2025, we're going to see a little bit of pushback on all these new licenses that are being introduced. And it'll be interesting. I expect that 400% year-over-year growth, maybe to continue in 2025. But, as the base gets bigger, I think you're going to see that slow down and people start really assessing which of the licenses, do I need.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, as part of Teams Premium, Intelligent Recap came through this year. Is that right? And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Intelligent Recap actually ended up expanding this year. So initially it was all focused around pre-scheduled meetings, and it actually moved to also supporting Teams phone calls, so peer-to-peer calling, and to ad hoc calls and meetings as well. So I think that's one of the star features, certainly one of the star features in Premium, one of the star features of the year for our space. And the other platforms are doing similar things, Cisco and Zoom. But I've certainly come to rely on, by default, my meetings, I hit record and transcribe and get a nice summary. And being able to do that on phone calls and meetings and ad hoc conversations was a nice add for the Intelligent Recap.
Fantastic. And another big update this year was Microsoft Teams Queues app. Satish, what's your thoughts on that? It was a big update. What's and I know we're seeing a little bit more recently, but tell us about the Queues app announcement.
The most important thing that a lot of us in the community as well, we're looking forward towards the Queues app. Customers have been adopting Queues app as such as well. Again, part of Teams Premium, which is what Microsoft is pushing up to. A lot of new features got added up into Queues app, like your real-time statistics are available, your agents opt-in, opt-out. So a lot of features are there. Just before this call itself, I did see that barge in, whisper, all those functionality which is available in a basic contact center is coming in Q1 next year. So that makes the Qs app more powerful, like a mini contact center solution that can be offered to any customer base that is looking for like a small contact center solution, but not much of an integration as such.
Fantastic. And then another one to teach was shared calling, wasn't it? That's for Teams Phone. Talk us through that announcement, because every time I talk about it, I have to Google what is shared calling. Things is just not sticking with me. But take our audience through that announcement.
Now, in terms of shared calling is a capability that a lot of organizations are using it now. It was initially, it was already available with the direct routing services, but now Microsoft has expanded that to Operator Connect and the Microsoft calling plan. Uh, Only specific operators on the Operator Connect sites are providing up the shared calling capability. So you'll have to reach out to your respective operator to just check on that. So shared calling is like having one DID, and that can be shared among 10,000 users. Your call comes in on your main auto attendant, and then from there, the call gets routed to the either by dial by name or dial by extension. So shared calling capabilities is really useful for organizations where if you have a Teams room and you don't want to give them a full-fledged DID, or if you're using a shared device in a common space, in those use cases as well. And then again, in frontline workers where the outbound calling is not much, for all those use case, shared calling is really useful. It reduces the revenue for telcos, but then the usage increases on that side. So that's one of the feature that every customer should be definitely looking at.
Fantastic. Now, to the Teams expert wearing all the fantastic lights, Josh, talk us through bring your own device. It's been a hot topic this year. What have been some of the most significant updates from your perspective?
Yeah, I think BYOD was, for Rooms was one of those surprise, not really surprise announcements, but it garnered surprise from a lot of people that were watching on the outside, right? They're thinking this doesn't really equate to Microsoft's direction of wanting to get people into fully licensed, built out native Teams rooms. Why would you want to bring BYOD scenarios into that? And it does benefit Microsoft in the way that they've approached it. It's, they've made the ability for organizations to now take these rooms that are, as they've discovered, organizations that have native Teams rooms deployed usually have BYOD rooms throughout as well. And not being able to manage those in one place or having to have it piecemeal is frustrating. Microsoft realized that. They've made a way through the Pro Management Portal to be able to now analyze where these BYOD rooms are in effect, get an inventory of them, manage them as such in that portal to an extent, right? There's not a whole lot of controls over the configuration of the rooms per se, but you get a lot of reporting, a lot of insights there. Where this benefits Microsoft is now they get to say, they help customers see, here's the usage you've got in these rooms that you've used as BYOD rooms. Either they're not really being utilized and the rooms aren't very important, or they're being heavily utilized. Maybe this is a good time to start thinking about a native solution, right? Maybe this is time to migrate from BYOD to a native room solution. So this was it was an interesting play that came about. I think it's one that was probably welcomed by a number of OEMs in the space because, again, BYOD requirements were prevalent and constant from customers. So the ability to now see them, manage them in some way, and properly plan out the evolution of BYOD rooms into native rooms where it makes sense is a helpful thing to the end customer as well. But granular controls there, some things you can do with PowerShell to help set things up when you're getting started on that route. But I think it's a welcome piece of the puzzle. How Microsoft continues to support it into the future will be interesting to see, because I think it's viewed, in my opinion, as kind of this is a gateway to getting to native rooms by Microsoft. But I think maybe a lot of customers view BYOD as more of a permanent piece of their overall strategy. So I'm curious to see how the support of that and the portal shakes out in the longer term.
The other interesting piece that was announced around BYOD at Ignite was just support for speaker attribution through BYOD, which I think speaks just to the broader story on the Copilot side, that we just can't have these blind spots where folks are embracing summaries and recaps and the ability to interrogate, Copilot, and they can't walk into a particular type of space where that's not supported. And so I think there's a big strategic play there, obviously, to ensure that all of customer spaces can participate in this AI journey.
From going from kind of BYOD to MDEP, which is Microsoft Device Ecosystem Platform, for anyone that doesn't know, we're going to go over to Graham to talk us through some of the highlights of the year. Graham.
Yeah, so first off, Microsoft will be moving or looking to move all their Android-based devices from a device registration process called Device Administrator, which is old legacy. I think it's been around since Android 4. With Teams Phone on the early days of those devices, how they were registered, secured, locked down. So they had to move them, and it's actually been about a 2-year project inside Microsoft. It's taken so long; it's a lot of work. And then someone said, "Oh, just factory reset every device in the world." And the Microsoft team said to Engine, that's not going to scale in the real world. I mean, we need to have a little bit of smoother. So like the 320 million users for a desktop client, that has to be the similar thing for rooms, devices, phones, panels, displays, etc. So all the OEMs have been working in the background on this. So Microsoft did publish a blog now that's saying it's coming in January, February timeframe. And again, it's going to be seamless. Much like Tom was saying with the Teams client, you want to be as seamless as possible so the users don't know any different. They walk in on a Monday morning and the device looks exactly the same. So that's one bit of work that the Microsoft Teams group has been doing. But then on the separate side of things with, let's call it the operating system team. So you've got the Windows team. You've also got this MDEP team, and they are building an Android platform. And the low-hanging fruit there was, let's use Teams devices. Let's put our flavor of the Microsoft build on these devices and offer it out to OEMs. So some OEMs have taken it up for Teams rooms, but it's now expanded beyond that. So if anyone knows those wireless sharing content devices, Barco, for example, they're going to adopt it as their operating system. Shure, who do installed audio, they're going to adopt it as theirs. And then some other OEMs are going to adopt it as well. So they have a simple baseline of, let's call it operating system, and then they'll put their own firmware and secret source on top. So it just takes one layer of the operating system out of their sort of engineering role, so they can focus on their innovation there. So again, it's still early days. There's probably lots to come. As I describe it, it's not just for Teams devices and now the conference room devices. We might see it in cars one day, fridge freezers. Who knows? It's just an Android operating system, just like Windows. You walk into a data center and not a data center, where you walk into a cloud data center. It's all Windows, but there's Linux and other flavors of operating systems, and MDEP is just another operating system essentially.
We're affectionately referring to this as Mandroid.
Mandroid.
And it's a good call out that it's just another Android operating system, because the question comes up often when MDEP comes up. But what about Zoom rooms? If we've got an appliance from this vendor, what about running Zoom rooms on that if the OS is now Microsoft's? And so that's, Microsoft has stated repeatedly, this is going to be open to running Zoom rooms on it as well as Teams rooms. And so it's very interesting to look at it through that lens and know that, wow, this is going to be more of an open OS for various purposes. And Ignite was a deluge of announcements of, hey, we're going to support MDEP as well. We're going to run on MDEP as well. It was so much coming at Ignite, and I'm curious to see how much more possibly comes out of the time frame of ISC, et cetera. But it's gaining a lot of steam. I looked at some documentation earlier that said, "Oh, we announced earlier this year," and the documentation was 2024. And I said, "No, you didn't announce earlier this year. That was last year. It's been going for a long time, but it's gaining a lot of steam in the last couple months. So it should be an interesting beginning of the year for it."
Great stuff. And finally, I think another big update, Ryan, you're going to talk us through this one, was Microsoft Places. That seems to be hotting up, and tell us why that is relevant in today's world.
Yeah, so Places went officially general availability as a product at Ignite, and this is really kind of speaking to this modern way that all of us work. I think we're not using terms like hybrid anymore. We're more in this kind of flexible work space, but there are challenges and just some realities of figuring out who is where, who's going to be where. How do we kind of align and coordinate in the most intelligent way to make sure our collaboration is firing at the top level, and then how do we also make sure that we're where we have physical spaces, that we're getting the right insights and analysis to be able to really optimize them and make sure that people have great, effective experiences. A lot of the functionality in places is a premium feature. I think to Kevin's point, this is again part of some additional stuffing in the turkey. There is a core level that is available without premium, that is much more around some of the basic coordination around where people are going to be. But I would say the broader story, which is around coordination and leveraging and modernizing physical spaces and making it easier to book rooms and book desks, and there's a lot of interesting goodness there that and most of it is premium, and some of it is actually Copilot involved. And so some of the announcements at Ignite were around the recommended in office days with Copilot, managing your meeting room with Copilot. So if I book a space and then somehow and then the meeting room, let's say that the date and time for that meeting changes and that room's no longer available, that Copilot could find a suitable replacement for me. And then there were some announcements around space optimization and analytics going further. And again, not all of it with Copilot. Some of it again is free, some of it requires premium, and then some of the more advanced features require Copilot. But I think big win for Teams Premium users, because this is again another universally applicable feature. Some of them were somewhat niche, and others like Intelligent Recap and now Places are things that could be leveraged by really all employees.
It's really interesting. And I suppose, we've gone through most of today's show without actually talking a lot about Copilot. I know you just mentioned it there, Ryan, but we haven't talked a lot about AI. But let's take the crystal ball over to Tom Arbuthnot and see what Tom's got to say about the road ahead. What does 2025 look like through your lens? Tom, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think it was very much a year of Microsoft pushing Copilot, trying to find ways to add value by integrating AI for sure. And I think 25 will continue to that. We're starting to see fruition of some, I think, meaningful features in Teams. So the facilitator agent is coming, which is kind of Copilot in multiplayer mode in Teams chat and Teams meetings. So like constantly helping you, but as a group, take the minutes, interact with that. So that's really exciting. And then I think one of the biggest features that got announced this year that will come next year is the translator agent. So the ability to do real-time voice-to-voice translation into your preferred local language. I think that's the biggest feature we've heard for a while in UC, again, where I think AI has genuine value for people. We'll also see AI in the Teams Admin Center, AI in the Rooms Pro portal, and a whole bunch of other kind of features. But yeah, it's interesting Q1. I'm really excited as well next year. There's already a lot of buzz around ISE and announcements around there. So that'll be our next big stop in terms of announcements. And then later on this year, we've obviously got Enterprise Connect in March. We've got Comms V next, I think it's April time. Commsverse around I think that's June, and the M365 community conference as well. So looking forward, a lot to come, but I think our next big news drop will be early Feb in ISE.
Tom, this year we've seen huge interest in contact center solutions from within the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, and lots more from Microsoft themselves with their own native solution, Dynamics 365 Contact Center. How do you think things are going to play out? How significant has this year been for you on contact center front?
Yeah, there's a huge appetite there for Microsoft to break into that space. It's a highly profitable, interesting space, and obviously it's ripe for AI and AI disruption. And we started seeing Microsoft turning up at the contact center shows and presenting as Dynamics 365 Contact Center as well. So yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Really interesting.
One thing to add on the Dynamics Contact Center side of the business is the team that built up Teams phone system is the same team that built up your Azure the Azure Communication Service is now the same team that's working upon the Dynamics Contact Center services as well. So the team consistency is there, and that's what Microsoft is expanding up on the Dynamics side.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Steve. It's all built on Azure Communication Services, and also that platform will be open to the ISVs as well. So all the innovation that's being made there will be open as a kind of CPaaS type scenario and for the Dynamics contact center. So one way or another, it'll be an exciting year for contact center.
Really looking forward to next year. But thank you to everyone for joining our Microsoft Teams show. Huge thank you to Tom and our panel for sharing their expertise this year. A lot of work goes on in the background that you don't see, a lot of chatter, a lot of great discussion, but we do bring this show to you, every year, and we've done it for quite a few years now, Tom, I think.
Yeah, a scary amount of years we've been doing this. So it's always great fun, and it's been great this year to have the panel. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to give their opinions, and it's been fun. I hope everybody's enjoyed listening. Again, we always appreciate the comments and the feedback and the sharing. So feel free to ping any of us if you've got ideas or suggestions for next year.
And for all our viewers, we'd love to keep the conversation flowing in 2025. So if you'd like to join our show, please reach out to me on social, DM me and let us know, because we'd love to have you join our show, even as a speaker or even in the background as a live audience member. And if you want to connect with any of our speakers or myself and Tom, our links are always down below in the description. So thank you so much for watching. We're going to be back again in 2025 with more Teams news and insights. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.